Okay, there's the rep button. All right, thanks everybody for joining the Sprint 5 review of our ongoing ETL project. I see a few of the leads in the call. Maybe we'll go with the ETL team first, and then we'll hand over to the vocab team. And while we present these teams, I hope there will be people from the QA and also the data analysis team joining us to share their sprint. Satish, over to you.
Okay. Yeah. Hi everyone. So we'll just, look at the progress of the ETL team for the last sprint. So in this section, you can see that there have been a few more tables that have been moved to the done column, and then the procedure occurrence also had some progress and is currently in review. Um, there's not much in note table. It's almost done. The pending is only the concept mapping from the OCAP team, and so that the standard concept ID can be mapped. And the one in the nearing completion, so almost most of the source tables have been mapped to the OMOP clinical tables. I would say they are 90% done. So the pending is again the visit occurrence, which is the main, and I'll talk about it the next slides. But the person ID, visit occurrence, and the standard concept IDs are somewhat pendings in yeah, the mixed tables, but at least yeah, the major work has been done for these tables as well. Yeah, so the we got the second batch of mappings from the OCAP team, and that has been populated in the source to concept map table. We as well populated, we did some schema migration, and then therefore as well populated all the tables from both the Python and the SQL team in the unified schema, and the clinical tables, which are actually in other than the to-do section, most of the tables have been populated, and then I've also been informed the QA team. Yeah. So tables populated and vocab team. So there was a discussion yesterday that what are the pending items still that the ETL developers would need to map their standard concept IDs, and that list also has been passed to Chi, and so he will check on this and get back on the pending items. And and there's also already some work underway with the second batch that has been passed on to us. So we will as well continue to map the standard concept IDs for whatever mappings we've got. And then there have been some discussions on the topic of the visit dates and the corresponding reference to the clinical tables, right? So for example, um, that we have already populated the visit occurrence table on a certain logic from the DA team based on the session ID and session start date and end date. But however, when generating the records in the corresponding condition occurrence table, the diagnosis date does not come within the date range recommended by Odyssey to be within the visit start dates, or at least within the threshold of 1 week. So there has been some discussions on that, and yeah, like I said, I'll talk about it in the next slide. So that was as well been handled. Yeah, the QA team has started to run checks, and they've also, documenting some of the issues in the sheet, provided in this link, and the ETL developers are also looking into it. Yeah, yeah. So to talk about this issue of visit dates and the referencing of the visit occurrence ID. So how do you reference your right visit occurrence ID in your corresponding clinical tables like condition occurrence and drug exposure and measurements and all that. The problem is that the respective clinical event dates, like the diagnosis date from the condition occurrence table, doesn't come within the date range of the visit start and end date from the visit occurrence table. So an example was, it was a few months off between the diagnosis date and the visit date. So there's been some discussions about in the ETL team meeting yesterday, and we've come to a conclusion that we try to check for those existing records in the visit occurrence. We try to check whether the diagnosis date, for example, falls within the range. And if not, we generate our own visit occurrence records in the visit occurrence table and then reference that in the corresponding clinical table like condition occurrence, right? So now, again, there are some, there is always some dependencies between the clinical tables. So that whatever order we have a certain order defined in the framework, that how the ETL tables will be populated. So if condition occurrence generates visit occurrence records, then the later tables like drug exposure or measurement can actually make use of the visit occurrence record generated by the condition occurrence. And there is some kind of a dependency involved here. But the logic is such that we still have overcome this dependency and not be bottlenecked by this. Yeah, so and let's see how the DKD checks, because there is a check that I as well noticed been added recently within the past few months, to see if the clinical event date falls within the date range, and we will as well know better based on that check later on. Yeah. Yeah, and then there was a clarification with the drug exposure source concept codes, because there have been some for the same vocabulary ID and the source concept code, there have been multiple target concept IDs. So Chief from vocab team clarified that they are just ingredients, and therefore they will translate into multiple records in the drug exposure table. So yeah, that has as well been handled. Yeah. We also created a new sheet in the ETL file to document the assumptions, because it'll take time for the DA team and the data owner to get back in some cases, or as well some ease of some liberty being taken in the ETL development. We are just documenting all these things so that either we can revisit them later and fix it in future, or at least know why that certain things are happening because of these assumptions have been made. So they're also been started to being documented now. Yeah. And lastly, yeah, we've again, uh, this, like I said, what's majorly pending from the ETL team is the visit occurrence issue has been now, decided on a certain logic, so that will be implemented. And then the QA team is as well running checks as we populate, and then the OCAP team will as well send us the remaining yeah, mappings for the concept IDs. So we've decided to extend it by one more sprint as well. Yeah, keeping all these things into account. Yeah, that's all. Any
Thanks,
questions?
Natish.
Yes.
On the visit issue that you just mentioned, we didn't have the data analysis team yesterday. I do see Bunseng in the call. Bunseng, I don't know whether it's you who's been reaching out to the data owners, or if it's Max who's been reaching out to the data owners, but the response we got with regards to this topic was that uh, diagnosis can happen post-operatively, which doesn't really answer the question. We needed to know whether a visit is associated with that specific diagnosis or not. So we talked about, I think, three approaches yesterday. Number one approach being we create a new visit record, assuming there is a visit associated with the diagnosis or whatever clinical event happening way after the visits. The second approach being we move the diagnosis date or the clinical event dates to the nearest visits, and the third approach being we move the dates to the visit occurring right before the specific clinical event. So the one right prior to that, whether that's 1 or 2 months or 3 months before. And among the approaches, we've come to the first decision about the fact that a visit is happening with the clinical event. And we sort of needed to know, we sort of kept that as assumption because we didn't really have that confirmatory response that a visit is always associated with the clinical event. So if there is any, if you can get clarification from the data owner from that perspective, I think that can clear out the assumption element here, because there or rationale for picking the first approach, I believe, was the fact that because this is a more of a registry, not all the visits associated with clinical events might be moved into the registry, and only the necessary clinical information might be moved. So that's why we decided on this. So if we could have some sort of confirmatory response from the data owners, I think it would ease everybody's minds here. But from the ETL team's perspective, we've moved on with this approach under the assumption.
Okay. I saw there's a clarification assumption. Is under the assumption sheet, right? Is listed as a first line under the visit occurring ID. Is it correct, Satis?
Yes.
So the assumption, they got a, just now Song mentioned here, got a number 1, 2, 3. So what we decided is actually to use the number 1 assumption. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. So I communicate with Yanqi, and then maybe she need to communicate with the data owner. Okay, I will get back to you. Loop you into the communication as well. Is that okay?
Me? Sure. Like
No. Together with Satis.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, sure. All right.
Yeah, so from the ETL team perspective, we'll just move on with this assumption. If there's any changes based on the responses from the data owners, we can reflect as we have decided to extend the project to accommodate these ongoing discussions. Okay, thanks, Satish. Anything else from the ETL team or anything? Does anybody have any questions for the ETL team? Okay, silence means good, I guess. Thank you, Satish. Moving on, Lakshmi or Chi, any of you? I don't think Lakshmi is in the call, right? No. Chi, do you want to just give us a brief overview of your sprint?
Yeah. So sorry, I don't have a slide. Normally, Lakshmi
That's fine.
do these kind of things. So in this sprint, we made a significant progress towards uh, the mapping work. So pretty much every major mappings are done except the surgery operation, okay, which is the most important part of this entire registry perioperative database. But after the mapping are done by the volunteers, I still have to compile them into the source to concept mapping table. And during the process, I also review the mapping, make sure they are correct and conform to OMOP standard. Unfortunately, that went pretty well. Since the last sprint, we add 4 more vocabularies to the existing ones. So now we believe we pretty much have everything, except I did not realize data analysis team identified actually even more than what I have identified. But those are not the major mapping efforts. It's mainly column-based mapping efforts. So I don't anticipate it. That's a lot of work, but we'll put them in based on the ETL spec that the data analysis team has done. And regarding the surgery operation, we have probably 10 volunteers, and 5 of them finished their work. The rest of 5 are pending. Uh, we run into some issues. They don't respond to our emails. Lakshmi sent them quite a few emails. They have not responded. So right now we're taking the approach that Song suggested. We're not going to map everything. We're going to map whatever we have plus the high count ones to so that we can at least finish the project. Regarding the publication of the uh, surgery national code, that's a little bit a long shot. Uh, but it shouldn't prevent the progress of this project. It just should not be a bottleneck for this project. I think that's it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Chi, on your last few comments, right? So I know we previously discussed about mapping everything. I know you had some exchanges with Mui as well on mapping everything because I believe I recall her asking some questions about what are the, like I believe the summary there was that uh, there are very few counts. So there is a low frequency associated with each of the codes, meaning that there's a lot of codes to map, but not a lot of counts associated with each of those
Right.
codes. So in
Yeah.
order to achieve a 95% rate, you needed to map a majority of the codes anyways. So I know there were some prior discussions on that, and your decision or the vocabulary team's final decision was to map everything. But considering you're having some volunteer issues, as in like bandwidth issues, and considering like we have a limited timeline now
Yeah.
in terms of the project, I think we can go back to the 95% approach, which, as you mentioned, I had suggested. You don't need to follow my suggestion, Chi. It's entirely up to you and your team to decide, right? If you feel you can achieve a 100% mapping rate, great, that would be great. But again, in terms of thinking about compromise, that's the basis of my recommendation. And I will leave it up to you and your team to decide. And since we're talking about volunteer issues, right? I see some of the vocab teams here. I know some of them have already completed and some of them are currently pending. Among the people who have completed, maybe are there anybody who could take on a few more mappings so that Chi doesn't do everything himself? You don't have to answer like me or Chi right now. You can contact us separately and cautiously raise your hand, and maybe we can make this a bit more of a team effort instead of Chi trying to do everything within the limited time frame.
Well, it's not what I do everything. Actually, most of the mappings done by other volunteers.
No,
For the
I was just bringing that up, Chi, because you almost said you're gonna map everything because of the volunteer issue, right? So I'm just looking out for you, Chi.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, half of the surgery already mapped, right? So it's the other half. If they don't match, if they don't map, then I'll pick. The problem for this is for the surgery, we really want to make sure they map correctly. So a medical background is definitely required for this effort.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so to the existing members of the vocab team in the call today, I know some of you have completed whatever is assigned to you. I know some of you might not have the bandwidth to take on additional mappings, but if you do have the bandwidth, please do let Chi and Lakshmi know so that they can get you some codes assigned, some additional codes assigned to you. Okay, thanks, Chi. Hopefully, the vocab mapping will also get wrapped up in parallel with the ETL team in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Right, so that's for the vocab team. We have the QA team and the data analysis team left. Is Bunseng, do you wanna, like, I know there's been limited work for the data analysis team in the previous sprint. Do you have anything you want to talk about specifically, assuming he's still in the call? Is he outside?
Yeah, that's okay.
Oh.
Actually, not much from our side. Is basically we are supporting together with the Satis to answer those clarification have been listed down, right? Together with Max. I saw majority of the question have been addressed together with the answer came from Yang Yang Yanzhi and also from Chi, right? I guess majority have been addressed. So we will continue to support Satis and the team, right? If any questions raised up. So far there's not much of the progress from our end.
Thank you,
Right.
Bunseng.
Thank you.
Satish, other than the visit issue, if there is any specific issue you'd like the attention of the data analysis team, maybe you can highlight that now, or maybe offline after the call, so that Bunseng is more aware of what to focus and coordinate for us.
Yeah, I mean this is, the visit occurrence is the main, and then the pending standard concepts IDs. Yeah, from what I check, yeah, I mean these two are the main items. Yes.
So Bunseng, on the standard concept IDs, right? More context here, since I think you missed our call yesterday. So I think there was a discrepancy between the vocab team and the data analysis team, because you guys were providing table and field mappings in the ETL specifications, and some of those fields actually had some mappings that were required, but it was lost by the vocab team. So there was a bit of discrepancy there. We aligned on that with Chi yesterday. Chi did comment on the fact that these fields specifically wouldn't necessarily have a lot of codes to be mapped. It's more of a one or two codes to be mapped associated with that specific field. So I think there was a slight discrepancy there, and the vocab team wasn't aware there needed to be some mappings to be conducted from that aspect. But this has been clarified. I think from a lessons learned perspective, right? I think the ETL specs should have also been emphasized to the vocab team, so that they are aware of what codes they are mapping and what might have been missed in the process from the ETL specs. So I think that was a good lessons learned for us yesterday.
Okay. So is there any particular code have been listed down that you wouldn't be able to map, or is a mix up?
No, it was just the fact that the vocab team wasn't aware codes needed to be mapped for some of the fields, because the vocab team didn't request the codes for those specific fields.
I see. As long as fulfill the ETL spec have been listed down, share across, right? It shouldn't be an issue.
No, you're right. You're right. But see, Bunseng, when you work with a group of volunteers and people who have everyday jobs, right? Sometimes they're too they can't read every single thing, and they need sometimes emphasis on certain aspects, right? But I totally agree with you when saying, like, it has been shared. I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying sometimes getting people's attention is required. So
I
it's
see.
a lessons learned, not directly addressed to you, Bunseng, or the data analysis team. I think as a group, right? When we do a community effort, these are some of the challenges that we face.
Okay, noted. Thanks, Song.
All right. Last but not least, we have the QA team. Santan, are you here? Oh, yeah, he is here. Welcome to have you here, Santan. Do you have anything you want to share with us about your previous sprint?
Yes, I can share my update and the screen as well. Just a second.
Thank you, Asao-san, for volunteering. I will get you connected. We have a real-time volunteer, guys. Thank you. Sorry to steal your thunder, Santan. Back to you. Oh. Did we lose Santan? Yeah, I think Santan dropped. Right, let's give him a few more seconds to rejoin. Here he is.
Yeah, sorry, I had to change the security settings. Now I'm
No
gonna share
problem.
my screen. Yeah. No, not this. Okay. Yeah, the last sprint was more about identifying the issues and coming up with a list of them, and yeah, let me go through. So so far we have gone through SQL errors and conformance failures in the DQD results, and documenting means they are shared across with the teams, and ETL teams or the other teams have at least have an idea of what failures these are about. And in these failures, I'll give you the numbers in the next slides, but on a high level, we have some known issues that are related to the in progress work. I'm going to ignore them at least at, at this point. Yeah. And next, I have run data quality dashboard twice with some filters and without some filters. Yeah. Without some filters is which means on all the tables and all the checks execute. With filters, I would explain what they are and why they are relevant at this point. So filtered DQD results pass percentage is 96, which is quite good. And there is also some sub-level, subcategorical numbers that I'll provide where the errors are happening. Yeah. So these are the unfiltered results, the checks that that are run across all the tables, which are even still work in progress, and some empty tables. Yeah. Even here, I would say the pass percentage is good enough, which is 96%. But I think for us, the focus at this point should be filtered results. Yeah. Filtered results. Why filtered results? For us, these tables that you see on the screen, some co cohort related tables, they are not relevant. And then vocabulary tables, not relevant so far. And then some tables that are still currently being addressed by ETL team, I have ignored them as well. Yeah. Even then, our pass percentage of checks is 96%. So if you see the checks that are relevant has the number has gone down to 852, and from this 852 checks, 821 passed, and that's why 96%. And from the other errors that we see here, 35, that are failing. 4 are SQL errors, and 21 are related to the concept ID column, and rest others are the the issues that we are currently addressing. Yeah, this is the um split between the issues that we see at this point. Okay, and the next steps would be going through the comments provided by other teams on the existing failed checks. Yeah, and then we have other checks which are not documented yet, that are completeness and plausibility. So I will document in the next sprint, and also address them with other teams, and try to solve some of the checks that we know are low hanging fruits. Yeah, so those are the next steps. Any questions or comments?
Thank you, Santan. Do we have any questions for QA? Santan, I have a question. So I know we talked about this at a ETL team call. We are using the latest version of the data quality dashboard for this process, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And when you say filtered and unfiltered, you're filtering the checks based on the tables, right? So you're not going down one more level to filter out or filter in specific checks within the specific tables, right? You're just filtering out everything related to those tables.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, great. I'm just trying to understand and make sure that if there is any specific, actions we're taking that are specific to our project, we are aware of that and we are documenting this. So you do have it documented here, but just wanted to confirm that the filtering is done on tables so that it's more straightforward.
Yes,
If
yes.
we do have specific checks that we're removing for our purpose, those should be documented as well. But I see that's irrelevant for us at the moment.
So far, at least, I did not go to that level because, yeah, we are still early, I think, and the tables that we already finished should give some meaning, at least, But for other tables, I know they will be done, or after the work that we finished. I can still include them without filtering. Yeah, so it's just on the table level. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, that makes sense. Any other questions?
And one other comment that I want to make is the SQL errors that we have identified are coming directly from data quality dashboard, which means we have identified a couple of bugs in the current version of the data quality dashboard. Uh, my next action item would be to raise a GitHub issue there, and probably also make a pull request to fix this.
No, I think that's a very good idea, right? So if we are doing this and we can contribute back to the Odyssey community, this is definitely something we should do, because if this hasn't been identified before, we should definitely contribute. Sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any other comments, questions?
Okay, I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, it's very awkward seeing you and you talking to yourself in these recordings. But by the way, guys. So before we close off the call, everybody, we have so originally we were scheduled to close the project tomorrow, but due to the extension, tomorrow's APAC community call will not be a closeout of the project. It will be another project status update. What that means is we've already had a project status update at the previous month's community call. So at this month's community call, we'll just provide an update of what has happened since the last community call. So in essence, that will be a summary of sprint 4 and 5 for us. What that means for the for the team leads here is we would need you to provide a summary of your sprints for M5 to the general community tomorrow. So basically a repetition of what has happened in the past month. You please feel free to reuse your sprint review decks that you have prepared for the past 2 sprint review meetings. We just need you to provide a overall update to the general community, because not everybody in the APAC community calls are joining, or project calls that's happening separately. So hopefully that will be less of a burden for the team leads here. I know sometimes too many meetings and presentations can be a hurdle to project progress. But yeah, let's make sure that the meeting tomorrow is a straightforward one, instead of a trying to come up with new things. All right. If there's no other questions from the community, I think I'll give back everybody 22 minutes of their day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.